Good morning, everyone, or good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the planet. I want to wish all of you very well. Um, Many of you know that I used to do regular videos, probably 2 to 3 times a day in the 2019-2020 period, really educating people on the science of the immune system, so people could get really educated on how to win against a lot of the nonsense and disinformation that the medical establishment was putting out and the mainstream media. And many of you know that our videos went viral to hundreds of millions of people all over the world. And 2019 and 2020 was a very, very important time to do the right thing and say the right thing at the right time. And what I want to talk about today is over the last probably several months, you've seen celebrities, you've seen Grifter MDs and politicians suddenly saying, oh, yeah, we were against lockdowns, we were against mandates, and so on. And in 2023, the lesson that everyone needs to learn so they get wise is, who are you going to trust? And are you going to outsource your future to this top-down model? What is occurring right now, as we'll talk about, is that the politicians are trying to say, oh, yeah, I'm against mandates and against lockdowns. Oh, yeah, some of these MDs we'll talk about who are now being, presented as heroes. And we'll walk through the actual history of what actually took place in 2019 and 2020, where all of these people were silent because the movement for truth, freedom, and health, a lot of those videos I did and the movement that we galvanized was coming bottoms up. And their entire effort was then and now was to hijack this bottoms up surge of everyday people like yourself wanting to change the course of history. And what you will see, the recurrent process in history, is people always trying to do these top-down movements, okay? And this guy, Jay Bhattacharya, was an example of one of those grifters. He's not a hero because he came way at the end of 2020. He didn't do one tweet until August of 2021. And he was essentially all these MDs who knew that the MDs better get a handle on this, because our movement was really building this bottoms up, and they never did anything. Shame on this guy, Jay Bhattacharya. We were running, as will show you, and all of his little Stanford buddies and these people with the MD titles, we were running the Fire Fauci campaign. We were educating people away not to do lockdowns in early 2020. They watched our stuff and came at the end of 2020, didn't do anything until 2021 after that, to attempt to hijack these movements, because they always want you to go think a guy in a white jacket with an MD and spectacles is going to save you. They're trying to save their butts, and they do not want to build a bottoms-up movement. That's what this is about. Everything they do when they see people surging up, they want to always make it top-down. So that's a key takeaway. Top-down versus bottoms-up, because a bottoms-up movement is what changes the world. Top-down movements are done for power, profit, and control. And this subtlety is what you need to recognize. Otherwise, you will be fooled over and over and over again. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about celebrities like Woody Harrelson, who's basically a pothead who didn't do anything in 2020. And a lot of these celebrities now coming out because now it's fashionable to be against lockdowns and mandates. So they want it both ways. That's bullshit. And that's what we're going to talk about. Before I go into that, I'm going to play you our anthem video to juice you up. But it's time that we build the movement for truth, freedom, and health bottoms up. And anytime you see the mainstream establishment promoting these people who are quote unquote anti-establishment, watch, when did they do this? And why did they do this? And what are they doing to your brain so you don't get off your butts and build a bottoms up movement versus thinking they're going to do something for you? And this is a critical thing we're going to talk about. And it's a very, very important dynamic. Otherwise, you're going to be under the forces of power, profit, and control.
We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite, working people. There's only one movement that can do that. And that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution. And that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training, because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, right? Talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work uniting. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers. Completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people, Dave, to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is a not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is a not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow, some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done. And it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum. People can go to vashiva.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it, anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. The Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on V as in Victor, A, Shiva, vashiva.com, so people can sign in. They can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, and Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there. But we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to VA Shiva, Victory America Shiva, vashiva.com.
All right, everyone. So the video that I played for all of you, please go to truthfreedomhealth.com. We've actually built a movement, and the idea is to grow this. So what is this movement? Well, this movement for truth, freedom, and health comes from a deep understanding of actually starting to respect working people, which is you. And when you look at the arc of human history and you take this course and you become part of this movement, one of the singular things that you will learn is that ultimately life advances when you raise your consciousness. And that consciousness raising is based on you recognizing the power of you individually and then collectively with other people. And when you look at that arc of human history, you'll find out that great change, real change for the broad masses of people took place when people organized bottoms up. Write that down, bottoms up, which means people realize that they need to link arms with their neighbors, take whatever issues before them, and the importance of these powerful bottoms up movements. Bottoms up movements. This is very different than top down efforts. Top down efforts are people in government or celebrities suddenly coming out and saying, oh yeah, I also am for this issue. Or the establishment personifications of the establishment, like MDs with their little white jackets and their little glasses and wearing their little pocket protectors and their little stethoscopes and etc. I'm giving you that example to say that the establishment has their set of characters. And whenever the shit hits the fan and the masses start figuring out stuff bottoms up, the establishment starts moving to see how they can hijack those movements and give you false heroes top down. And this is effectively done so you dishonor yourselves, and the real heroes are on the ground building movements and having respect for everyday people. So you say, oh, that MD is saying something now. Isn't that great? Or that Kennedy is saying something, or that celebrity. And this is where you get trapped. And this event that has taken place over the last 3 to 4 years with the pandemic and the lockdowns is a huge opportunity for people to learn. Unfortunately, many people are not learning. Unlike in other countries, which do not have the First Amendment, 4% of the world's population has it. That's called the American citizens. They have a huge responsibility to exercise their First Amendment, but that demands that you, if you're an American citizen, recognize that you have to not be fat, dumb, and lazy and sit on your ass and thinking some celebrity is going to solve their problem and get all giddy and excited. So let's talk about this. And remember, these people don't like you. They hate you, in fact. Having been out on the West Coast in Hollywood and Malibu, I can tell you that they despise you. These MDs at Stanford want to have their little posh life, and now they want to act like they're your fighters. They're not, okay? So let's review that. Let's start recognizing that what actually took place. And I want to give you, and many of you know, the efforts that our movement, that we did. You know, my participation as an activist goes back to when I was a 17-year-old kid. You can go look at all the videos. I've been a ground activist. I'm an inventor and a scientist. But most importantly, I believe in working people building these bottoms-up movements. That's been consistent for nearly 30, 40 years. It hasn't been suddenly I woke up and I said, oh my God, let me be an activist and try to act like I'm fighting for the people. This has been central to who I am. It was central to our US Senate campaign. And it's central to the movement for truth, freedom, and health. And the goal is to pound away at recognizing that people need to unplug and recognize we need to build these bottoms-up movements. That's what this is about. So if you look in 2019, and I want to share with you the data, all right? So you can see the difference between these scumbag grifter celebrities and politicians who are now being presented top down as your heroes, and you can't, take the bait. These people are not your heroes. But let's go back and look at the data. All right. Let me share with you some of those important data items. All right. I'm going to bring up some of the stuff I've queued together here. All right. So if you go here and you look back in 2019, all right, I gave a talk at the National Science Foundation. This was a prestige lecture called the Modern Science. All right. So I was invited to deliver the talk at the National Science Foundation. And at this talk, which you can go find, this is November 19, 2019. So in that talk on the immune system, this is in 2019. I was invited to present this lecture as an expert on the immune system, and they only choose one speaker to come every year. And in that talk, I laid out the modern science of the immune system from my own research as a scientist and said that it's stupid to give one size fits all medicine. 2019. All right. So that's the scientist doing that work, Dr. Shiva. All right. And this was as a part of our campaign. And I was also running for political office in Massachusetts. All right. So there's the activist, Dr. Shiva, and there's a scientist who gave that talk. All right. All right. Then in March, in early January of 2020, many of you know that's when COVID hit the United States. What did I do as an activist, and what did our movement do as an activist? Well, let's go back and look at the facts. All right. And at that time, if you go on Twitter, you'll find out that on January 6th, I'm going to play a little piece of this for you. We led one of the biggest movements. So on January 6th, I'm going to stop this just to give you the data. So on January 6th, months after I delivered that lecture, we were down in New Jersey at the State House. We'd galvanized 5,000 citizens of New Jersey, and we stopped the vaccine. We forced the Congress to table the vaccine mandate bill. I didn't see Woody Harrelson there. I didn't see Jay Bhattacharya there. I didn't see Thomas Massie there. I didn't see Rand Paul there. This is in 2020, January 6, 2020. You have to look at the facts. As a scientist, as a movement builder, we were on the ground galvanizing people. None of these people were there. And it's very important to understand this, because had they used their megaphone in 2020, here's an expert on the immune system. I've been invited to the NSF. Where were these guys? Where were these MDs? Where were these celebrities? Where were these politicians? They were nowhere to be found. And then after all of that, some of you may remember that we then created the petition right here, Fire Fauci, April 3rd of 2020. And this petition got hundreds of thousands of signatures. In fact, some people are still signing it now, okay? And we drove, and you can see what the petition says. It's to President Trump telling him that Fauci is a scumbag, he should be fired, and we need to do, the right medicine for the right person at the right time. All right. I didn't see any of these Stanford professors there, these quote unquote Great Barrington people. I didn't see Woody Harrelson there. I didn't see any of these celebrities there. None of them. And this is at the height of when the lockdowns are starting to take place in March of 2020. All right. What else did we do? This is a movement for truth, freedom, and health. Okay. After that, right before that, I wrote a letter to Trump saying immune and economic health for America. Do not lock down the country. Here's a letter. It was delivered to Trump, directly to him. He knew about it, and it also gave a protocol on how we need to do the right medicine for the right person at the right time. All right. After we did all this, then in late 2020, these Great Barrington people stole our approach and called it focus protection and never tweeted on it until August of 2021. You see, we were a bottoms-up movement growing. They wanted to make it top-down. And now the media gives these Grifter MDs, these celebrities, attention because they hate you. They hate a bottoms-up movement. So get this really clear. Our movement did all the hard work. We're the ones who exposed masks. We're the ones who exposed the vaccines. We're the ones who exposed the lockdowns. We exposed the election issue in 2019, 2020. Didn't wait until late 2020 when it was, when you wanted to hijack the movement. That's what they did. And then in late 2021, you start tweeting about it after Pfizer's already made $80 billion. I hope this is clear. It is very important when you tell the truth. When? And are you telling the truth to build a bottoms-up movement, or are you telling it to hijack it top-down? I hope this is clear. These MDs want to always bring everything back top down. The politicians want to make it top down, and the celebrities want to make it top down because they want you to be star fuckers. So you outsource your future to them. You don't get off your butts and build the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Everything they're doing, because they know for the first time in human history, there's an independent movement that's bottoms up, that teaches people the science, that teaches people how to organize. And we have a lot of people come around our movement, learn, and then want to be their own little, grifters. Our movement is learn, you teach, and you serve. You build a bottoms up movement. And that's what this is about. So when you look at the facts, these guys weren't around when it mattered in 2020. That's when it mattered, because all of these guys want to have their little posh jobs, have their prestige. MDs are the biggest egomaniacal assholes because everything is about them. You go to a hospital, it's about them. And a few of them now are coming out. And the reason they're doing that is not because of you. They actually hate you. They're doing that because they want to control the movement top down. You see? They want it to be about them, top down. And what is a star fucker? You see, when I was in Hollywood, I would see people, oh my God, can you give me my signature? And right after that person got their signature and walked away, these same quote unquote celebrities say, look at that star fucker. They call you star fuckers. MDs have their very posh lifestyles. Jay Bhattacharya and his people didn't want to lose their jobs as Stanford professors. He didn't help our Fire Fauci movement. They went and tried to do their own thing to take away the power of our bottoms-up movement, the Great Barrington Declaration. The fuck is that? We had Fire Fauci. Direct for people. So please understand that in 2023, you can't be a dumb fuck anymore. You got to get wise. These people do not want you to support and build the bottoms-up movement for truth, freedom, and health. They know the power of what I did just with these little videos. 200 million people learned about our movement. We saved many people's lives. We exposed the election fraud issues first. We're the ones who exposed the government big tech censorship first. First does matter. Credit does matter. Why? Because it shows where the real force is bottoms up. And so they want to say, oh, well, credit doesn't matter, Dr. Shiva. Why are you not working with them? We're not going to work with them because they're top down. They're the antithesis of who we are. They will even use our rhetoric. They will even copy our thing, but they're not a bottoms up movement. They want it to be controlled top down. You see, it's top down versus bottoms up, top down versus bottoms up. And this is exactly what happened in the US political movements of the late 1800s and 1900s. There was a massive bottoms up movement, not only in the United States, globally, when working people organized, independent of celebrities, independent of MDs, independent of the establishment stalwarts. It was everyday working people like you and I. And when they built those bottoms up movements by the 1900s, they were winning many gains. If you look in the United States, the ending of child labor, water systems, infrastructure, all of those came from the demands of these bottoms up movements. The elites didn't want to give you the 8-hour workday. They would happily have children working in factories all day. It was these bottoms up movements. And the fear of those bottoms up movements forced them to create their misleaders, fake heroes. And it's happening right now. Jay Bhattacharya is not a hero. He has a beautiful posh job. Go to Stanford, manicured, beautiful lawns, and he's your hero? I'm sorry. I didn't see him give me a phone call and say, Dr. Shiva, you nailed it. He stole our stuff, and they called it focus protection, which is a plagiarism of the stuff that I had already done in the letter to Trump and in 2019, because that's what they want to do. They want to bring it back to the MD. MD, it should really be motherfucker, MF, okay? The MDs are the assholes of the entire healthcare system. Yes, it's a damn shame, but it's not a damn shame because our movement exists. Truth, freedom, and health exists. It is your responsibility right now to grow that movement. Stop outsourcing your future to MDs, Woody Harrelsons, politicians. Rand Paul came nearly a year later than he used the hashtag Fire Fauci in 2021. He wasn't there in 2020. When matters. When matters. What do I mean? When you tell the truth. When you act matters. You watch which way the wind blows. Ooh, now I'm against the vaccines. I'm against mandates and lockdowns. Well, you're doing it either for two reasons, because it's fashionable, or you need to take over this surging bottoms-up movements. Those are the two reasons that these people get involved. And they do not support the bottoms-up movement. They did not support Fauci. None of these people put their signature there. It was everyday working people that did. None of these people, I saw them at our mass protests that we did on the ground. I never saw them there. Now they're coming and want you to listen to them. Congress should have me testify about the letter I wrote to Trump. The Republican White House knew about this. They kept Fauci, and now they're trying to act like they're heroes. Come on, guys. It's time that you get smart. Stop giving credit to these fake heroes, because they hate you. They actually hate you. They think you're dumb because you're now giving them credit. Don't give any one of these MDs credit unless they were there in 2020, January 2020. If they weren't there, don't give them credit. Don't give these politicians credit. Now passing bills 3 years later, come on, the house is burned down. Billions of people got the jab. Trillions of dollars were transferred from working people to the elites. Elon Musk made he grew his wealth 1,000% during the lockdowns. It's time that you have respect for yourself and recognize who the real heroes were. It was our movement. It was the efforts that we did, and we did it independently. We didn't get any mainstream media attention, and we saved millions of people's lives. It was this movement for truth, freedom, and health which got the word out. So for God's sake, give credit to the right people. Stop outsourcing to these morons. Woody Harrelson has a movie coming out. So there's a technique created by a professor at Columbia called cause-related marketing. It's where celebrities jump on a cause. They're manipulating you. And you think they care about you? They don't. They're using you. They didn't say shit. They made millions of dollars being quiet in 2020. And now they want to make millions of dollars acting like they're fighting for you. Do you see the level of exploitation here? You guys get it? It's called total exploitation. They exploit you in the beginning, and then they exploit you in the end. And then they exploit you a third way because you think they're your heroes. So celebrities, MDs, and politicians who were not there in March of 2020 when the independent movement for truth, freedom, and health was on the ground and they knew about it. Go look at it. We collected over 100,000 signatures, drove it to Trump, gave it to him in March of 2020 in our bus. They weren't there. So for God's sake, give credit to the real fighters, because when you don't do that, you're hating yourself, because the movement for truth, freedom, and health is bottoms up, and it's about you. Yeah, so Jose Fusco says it's crimes against humanity, what they've done. Yes, and the real criminals, Josie, are not the obvious establishment. It is the not so obvious establishment like Jay Bhattacharya and these MDs who literally attempted to hijack our movement, because they don't want a bad Indian like me. So they find a good Indian. You say, quote unquote, a good Indian. He's a house slave. Jay Bhattacharya is a house slave. Because if he were a true field slave, which is what I am, and I'm not a quote unquote a good Indian, so they find another brown skinned guy because they don't want this brown skin face leading a movement, because it's the real movement, because it's about galvanizing things bottoms up. So they found another brown skinned doctor, and you're finding a lot of these guys. They're finding a lot of brownies. They have some guy, Ramaswamy, now running, who's just, talking shit. He wasn't there on the bottoms up movement. I never saw him at one protest. They won't do door to door. They won't get their hands dirty. We do. So it's time for you to respect yourself. And I'm here just to call it out, because I want the credit to go to the people who did the work. He who works should be credited, not who comes after and tries to hijack these bottoms up movements. So in summary, let's keep it very simple. Go look at 2019, 2020. That's when the shit was hitting the fan. Who was there doing the work? We did many protests. We did many videos. We educated people. We wrote to Trump. We ran the Fire Fauci campaign. These guys watched what we were doing and said, shit, we better hijack this movement. So they wait until the end of 2020, the Great Barrington Accords. It's all bullshit. Run by MDs, top down. And now they're the heroes? No fucking way. They're not the heroes. They're opportunists who are sent by the establishment to make sure the bottoms-up movement never takes place. So if you go back, look at the 1900s in this country when these bottoms-up movements grew, and you have to study history. Otherwise, you will be screwed. That's why you got to go to truthfreedomhealth.com. Come to our orientation tomorrow. Let me put this up here so you understand what we've actually created for you, okay? The orientation's tomorrow, vashiva.com/orientation. Go sign up. But the bottom line is this. We have to build the bottoms-up movement. And the forces of the establishment always try to hijack it top down or delay the truth. So if you look at U.S. history, in the 1900s to 1940, the entire U.S. economy grew and people's wages grew because of these bottoms-up movements. Okay? Chris Newberry says, if you weren't screaming no from the mountaintop from day one. Exactly. Exactly. We were the ones who were screaming from the mountaintop day one, okay? They weren't. What they were trying to do was figure out how to hijack our bottoms-up movement. So now you go and look back at history. Same things occurred before. In the 1900s, bottoms-up movements came, and those bottoms-up movements were bottoms-up workers' movement. They scared the shit out of the elites. As the GDP grew, everyone's wages grew. But by 1950, the elites said, holy shit, there's this bottoms-up movements growing. We have to create a top-down version of it. So they got the unions involved. The Democrats took over the unions top down, like this guy, Jay Bhattacharya and his Great Barrington Accords are trying to do that with our movement. And then they had the right wing attack anytime there was a bottoms up movement. They called it Marxist, radical, communist. So the right wing attacked the bottoms up movements using the Red Scare, and the left wing took over from top down. And that's exactly what's happening now. It's exactly what they're doing now, because they want you to not have faith in yourselves to build these bottoms up movements. So it's not about them, guys. It's really about you. Stop outsourcing your future to these fucking scumbags. And I just did a video saying we must use the right curse word at the right time for the right people. It's very important to curse at the right time for the right against the right person. These people are fucking scumbags. They want to cut the legs off a bottoms-up movement and outsource it to them top down. Do not give credit to them. Do not fall prey to that, because then you're being dumb. And they hate you because they think you're dumb. And that's precisely what they're doing right now. So I wanted to do this video because you should all write to these Congress people. Why isn't Dr. Shiva testifying? He's the one who exposed all of this. Why are you giving credit to the same medical establishment that created this problem? You see, the medical establishment is running wild. They're realizing, wow, people figured this out. So we have to give credit back. So they're anointing some of these fools, these opportunists, and they're pushing them on you as the new heroes. They're not heroes. They are scumbags. Exactly. So it's time that you have respect for yourself. And we build the bottoms-up movement for truth, freedom, and health because it exists. You don't have to run around anymore. You don't have to go to this fool or that fool, etc. You don't have to do that. And just remember very clearly that these people are very, very clever. They want you to outsource your future to them, top down, top down, top down. They hijack bottoms-up movements and they make it all about themselves. And they do not want you to get off your butts, speak to your neighbors, get educated. They want you to remain enslaved. Tomorrow, we have our orientation. Go to vashiva.com/orientation. Come to it so you can meet this global movement that we've created globally of truth, freedom, and health. And you must get involved in this because the movement exists. If it didn't exist, you would have no alternative. But you have no excuse now because our movement exists. It is the true and only movement for truth, freedom, and health. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com. Slogan is get educated or be enslaved. You'll understand that we're creating a global community. You'll see stories of transformation by people like you. There's no celebrities or politicians or star fuckers here, okay? And we're addressing the fundamental problem. There's so much information out there, but it doesn't mean people are getting more truth, freedom, and health. In fact, what's happening is those in power are using ignorance to manipulate you into illusion, into desperation, and to be in the left or right or complacency. And the only way out of this is for you to get wisdom. And wisdom comes from learning the science of systems. And all of this is here for you to support your advancement, so we build a movement. And that's what we're doing here. So again, let me summarize. The establishment right now is hijacking or attempting to hijack the bottoms-up movement for truth, freedom, and health using their fake, misleaders. They have celebrities now suddenly coming out because they want you to outsource your dignity to them. Don't do it. Yes, thank you. They are pieces of shit. That's who they are. Yes. Yeah, well, here's the bottom line. Woody Harrelson didn't say shit when it mattered, profited, and now he has a movie coming out. Now he's saying stuff because he wants a new audience. That's all he's doing, guys. Jay Bhattacharya wasn't there. I didn't see him on the ground in New Jersey. I didn't see him at one freaking protest. His role is to hijack the bottoms-up movement. That's why they give him a lot of face time. They will not give me face time on mainstream media because we're the real bottoms-up movement. We're independent of left and right. Get that clear. They will never give the bottoms-up movement mainstream media face time. They will make us invisible because we cannot be controlled. They will give those people face time who are top down. All right, so in closing, you must make a choice whether you want to be wise or be dumb. If you want to be wise, go to truthfreedomhealth.com and help grow this movement. You must make a choice who you will follow as your real heroes to honor yourselves. Or will you denigrate yourselves and follow these scumbags and say, oh, well, he said some nice stuff. Stop it. Time out. Everyone can say nice stuff. Words are cheap. When did you say it? And did you get your hands dirty? And did you really risk yourself? I'm sorry, a professor at Stanford, wanting to protect his job and being silent. I'm sorry, if he was serious, he would have lost his job in 2020. He would have put his butt on the line. He didn't. All right? So look at who your real heroes are. Have dignity for yourself. Help build the movement. As many of you know, we've launched our Shiva for Senate campaign in Massachusetts, and we've also created our exploratory committee to run for U.S. president. So you can have many ways to get involved. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com. You can go to shivaforsenate.com. But this is an opportunity for you to get wise and not be following these fools and help grow the movement for truth, freedom, and health, the only bottoms-up movement in the world, which is about you. All right, everyone, I hope this helped, but get off your butts and get educated or be enslaved. Stop following these fake heroes. And if you are a star fucker, don't do it anymore because you're hurting yourselves. Thank you, everyone. Be well.